Welcome to our class. Yesterday we have taken a class on chemical bonding. My dear students, I think what is the meaning of electrovalent bond and what is chemical bonding, by now I hope you have understood. So let us proceed with one more bond, that is covalent bond. Already I have given you hint regarding covalent bond that it happens so when there is a sharing of electrons from the valence electrons. So in general this sharing happens within two non-metals. Some exceptional cases are also there, but mostly we'll be going through two non-metals. Again, the covalent bond may be a single covalent bond, as in the case of alkane, which is in the form of CnH2n plus 2. It may be of double bond in the case of triple bond is in the case of alkynes, which is in the form of CnH2n minus 2. Everything I am going to write down over here on the board. Now one more thing is that covalents may be polar in nature and covalent bonds may be in non-polar in nature. So what is polar in nature and what is non-polar in nature? So when there is a slight electronegativity difference between two atoms, in case of we have learned that polar and non-polar. Suppose then what is polar covalent? The polar covalent occurs when there is a slightly difference in electronegativity, as in the case of hydrogen and chlorine, whereas non-polar covalent occurs when they have almost equal electronegativity, means there is no dissimilar between them. Let us draw one or two diagrams over here, and how to draw the covalent, try to understand. I am going to write down here the difference as well. Please note it down in your notebooks. Thank you. So the very first question now you have to understand. So this type of question also appears in your examinations in MCQ system. So what is the question here? Condition for formation of covalent molecule. As I said you that both the atoms should be more or less, it should be non-metals. The very first condition is both atoms should have, number one, high electron affinity, number two, high ionization potential, number three, high electronegativity, and both atoms should have 4 to 7 valency electrons, as I showed you, for sharing. If they are sharing a single electron pair, it's a single bond covalent. If they are sharing two pairs of electrons, it is a double bond sharing covalent, and if they are sharing 3 electron pairs, it is triple bond sharing. Okay, now let us go with the polar and non-polar nature. Okay, one more thing you have to know, that is the polar covalent and non-polar covalent, which I have said you. So I have written here, try to understand it again. Number one, shared pair of electrons are unequally distributed, whereas in polar covalent, equally distributed. Again, in polar covalent we have here charge separation takes place. You have to remember this. The atoms which attract electrons more, they develop slightly negative charge. For in the case of hydrogen chloride, just now I have explained before, hydrogen chloride, there is a bond formation, covalent bond formation, it becomes slightly negative. Whereas in non-polar covalent, there is no charge separation takes place. Example in the form of chlorine and carbon tetrachloride. Next topic will be going with the dative bond, which is also called coordinate bond. I am going to write down the definition of dative bond. Here you must know two things. Number one, you should know what is lone pair. That also I will explain you right now here. Next, you must know this, and this is the last that we have come from here. One mark question always comes in your ICSE exam. So let us see. So I already explained you what is lone pair. So pair of electrons which is not shared by any atom. Example, in the case of water, you see here this hydrogen is getting shared, here hydrogen getting shared, but this pair and this pair, here we have two lone pairs. This is a lone pair, this is also lone pair. Clear? So now we have the concept of lone pair. Next, as I said, one more bond is formed, that is dative bond, which is also called coordinate bond. So we can write here coordinate bond. So here also there is sharing of electrons, so obviously it takes place, and also they must have lone pair, and the condition for dative bond is number one of the two atoms must have at least one lone pair electrons. You must remember this one. And another atom should have deficit of at least a lone pair of electron. For example, in the case of for this dative bond is hydronium ion. Hydronium ion. Now I am going to draw a structure of hydronium which often appears in exam, and for practice you can go with ammonium ion also. Equation of hydronium ion. First, you must know the equation. Here it is a water plus ion of hydrogen goes with the reaction hydronium ion. So structurally, what you can do it is here. This is a water molecule already. You are going to see over here, and this is a lone pair. This part is lone pair. This part is lone pair with an ion of hydrogen. When it is getting combined, so finally we are getting a dative bond. In this way you can write it, but most considerable format is this one, where you have to put this arrow mark always, or else you won't be getting even a single mark. You have to be very cautious while doing this diagram. So preferentially you do this plus this gives, you can direct, instead of wasting time over here, you can go directly this, and you must put your arrow mark showing that this is the hydrogen ion which is without any pair of electrons. Next, underline, you can go with this one. One more structure that often you have to know, that is of hydroxyl, and how to construct it. Come. Okay, this is one more important one. Okay, so that is the first you write water, then what it happens, we can write in this format. Then for water we can write the structure in this way, and finally we get the hydroxide or hydroxyl ion in this format. So my dear students, practice this type of things to get full marks from this chapter. Thank you. And if you have any doubt, you can always put your questions, and of course don't forget to subscribe yourself as well as with your ask your friends to subscribe.